Joining me now, Tim Ballard. He's the founder and the CEO of Operation Underground Railroad, who specializes in stopping child trafficking. Tim is also a former special agent with the DHS. Tim, it is great. It is an honor to have you with us. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Lou.
We are hearing from the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security that the crisis on our southern border is unsustainable. The president has declared a national emergency, and a major political party has decided to avert its eyes and to pretend that this is all about politics, and particularly 2020, instead of national security and the well-being of the people, including the children that you work so hard to protect, citizens of Mexico, Central America, as well as American citizens. It is tragic. Your thoughts about where we are right now?
You know, my thoughts are this. Look, we have one of the highest demands for child sex in the United States, right here. And so traffickers, with these millions of kids that they control throughout the world, they're trying to get these kids into the United States. And I've been combating this as an undercover operator for over a decade along the southern border. I know how horrible this problem is. I've got these, I have these child victims, these survivors, who I'm taking around. They want their voices heard, and they're being ignored. You know, the concept of a wall and a barrier, this would save their lives. I mean, this would drive the traffic into the ports of entry where law enforcement can save their lives. And they feel like this is sad. It's being so politicized that these kids, their lives are in danger because we're losing potentially one of the greatest tools we have to rescue them.
Have you ever heard the president of the Chamber of Commerce or the head of the Round Table or a Wall Street CEO talk about child sex trafficking across the border? Have you ever heard one of them? Because I haven't.
I certainly have not. This is off people's radar, and it should be the most important thing. There's more children today, there's more people today in modern-day slavery than ever before in the history of the world. This is a crisis of epic proportions, and it's happening at our southern border.
And I listened to Kristen Nielsen, the Secretary of Homeland Security. You work for DHS. Say that this is unsustainable, that it's a crisis. And you know, all I could think is the president had just mentioned yesterday 30,000 women and children who are being smuggled into this country for sex trafficking, along with the 80,000 opiate deaths from the resulting from the smuggling of all those drugs. All I could think of is I'm listening to the woman who is responsible for the security of that border and the agency that employs tens of thousands dedicated to protecting us from that border. I'm wondering where the hell the military is. I'm wondering where the Border Patrol is. I have to tell you, I'm wondering where the hell is all that wire that was strewn. I've heard a lot of talk about a border wall being started, and yet I'm looking at the prospect, if you take the old measure, which is 3 to 1, for every apprehension, 3 get through on that border, we're talking about as many as 4 million illegal immigrants entering this country this year. What is going on?
You know, and it's even worse than that. We talked about, I testified today before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and we talked about the stats, the numbers. There's been a 360% increase in adults who are smuggling children who are not their children. These are unaccompanied minors. They're using these children as pawns because if you can bring a child, you can claim amnesty, believe it or not. And so these kids are being kidnapped, they're being taken. They don't belong to the people being smuggled. The cartels get control of them, smuggle them in, and they can turn it into a sex trafficking situation right away because they can make a lot of money. These children are so vulnerable, and it saddens me that truly it's being ignored.
What can we do first for those children?
We need to be loud and tell the truth and listen to the facts that you know, 1,700 children were brought in the last 10 months without parents. You know, someone pretending to be this is their child. It's not their child. You know, if we have a heart as a nation, we are going to put these kids first, these children who are vulnerable, they're being abused, they're being raped. The New York Times is even reporting it this week, that several women who were being smuggled in they had to pay for their transport with their bodies. And, you know, the infrastructure would curb this. No question about it. A wall, a barrier, a smart wall will curb this because it forces the traffickers to take those children through the ports of entry where they can be rescued.
And as you know, Tim, this president is the only one who's had the guts to even talk about the cartels, the only president I've ever heard even mention who was behind the human smuggling, the sex trafficking, the drugs, the corruption on both sides of the border.